Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Weekend Winners in association with BetVictor. And on this week's show, we're going to be looking ahead to the best of the action at Kempton and Newcastle. As well as that, we're also going to be taking a look at the Winter Derby, now at Southwell, of course, with its new home. And plus all of that, we're also going to be giving you more Cheltenham anti-post angles later on in the show, so make sure you stay tuned for that. Now, joining me, as ever, my usual duo of Declan Rix and Sam Boswell. Now, Dec, good opportunity to sound the trumpet for you. Your nap going in Botox has your next best and your long shot also going painfully close. I mean, what could have been?
What could have been, yeah. I think through 5 was maybe idling a little bit. But, yeah, no, it was a good week. Pictori went in as well. He was well backed, but crazy market for that race. A bit of a mental race, but we won't stoke that fire right now.
No, it seems a long time ago already, but we've had a lot of discussion about that race subsequently. But yes, Sam, plenty more to go out this weekend. And we're in that kind of in-between time, aren't we, now, where the build-up for Cheltenham, but we've still got some really intriguing racing.
Tricky racing, I think it's fair to say, Kate, as well, actually. And going through the card, there's some good prices out there we'll get stuck into. But, of course, those Cheltenham boosts are coming at the end of the show. And I won't give it away now, but I've tipped a favourite up, which people were asking me when I was at Lingfield on Thursday. I had a chat to a couple of guys that watched the show. They said, "You're too clever with some of your selections, Sam. I want one of your favourites to be tipped up." So there we go. We'll come to that later on.
Man of the people, Sam Boswell. I love it.
He's giving the people what they want. We're boosting a favourite. OK, so definitely stay tuned for that then as we get to that, as I say, later on in the show. Now, of course, a usual reminder, though, before we get stuck into the action, to please do gamble responsibly, that our tips are not guaranteed to win, but we will still do our best to point you in the right direction. Right, we begin at Kempton. Now, this is with the Grade 2 Pendle Novices Chase for the 5-year-olds and over 2 mile, 4.5 furlongs at 2:27. Now, Paul Nicholls, I should say, has won this race an incredible amount of times, 13 of the last 20. Now, some of those star performers, including the aforementioned Pictori, Frodon surname. He sends out the 3-1 favourite Tom Morris this year. So, Dec, can Paul Nicholls win this race again?
Well, I hope not, because I'm not siding with the favourite. But look, there's just the 6 runners. But given the penalty structure of the race, it's seriously competitive. I think maybe only Soul Icon it would be the biggest surprise if he was to win. If any other of the 5, I think you can easily see winning. I don't see an awful lot of pace here. I think Tamores will go forward, potentially kept honest by Le Patron. So I'm not seeing an end-to-end type gallop. And I think that's going to suit my selection, which is going to be Pembroke, because he is stepping back up in trip. Now, he did finish last season in the Grade 1 at Aintree, the top novices hurdle, finishing 5th. But physically, he always looked like he was going to be a chaser. And I think he's taken to fences pretty well. I love his run last time out behind JPR1 and Matata in the Lightning novices at Lingfield. I think 2 things there suggested to me. I think, one, he wants to step up and trip now, because he was basically badly outpaced from 3 out all the way up the home straight. And the other thing is a flatter track. It's worth going on to attheraces.com and watching the replay in full. He came down the hill at Lingfield like a crab. So he was in an awful way. I think getting back onto a flat track will suit him. So the combination of a flat track, the step up in trip, I think are really going to suit for the informed Skelton team. He does have a penalty to carry, but I think he's a classy sort of horse. So yeah, I'm kicking off with Pembroke this week.
Pembroke the crab, right? As he will now forever be known. That's a good case made. All the same then for Dec. Sam, who are you siding with?
Yeah, interesting renewal, isn't it? Obviously, no Nickel back in here, so that changes things a little bit. Tamores, for me, was the horse I sort of started with. Front of the betting, will like the ground, completely see that angle. Dec selection, got a lot of respect for him as well. But I actually came down on the mare in here for Nicky Henderson. I think Arkle's an intriguing runner at the prices. Just going back through the form, it got a really good boost yesterday with Marsh Wren winning over at Thurles in Ireland. Fair play to Stuart Edmonds, who's flying at the moment, and taking a UK runner over there is never easy, but that form boost was pretty impressive. I do think the ground, you could look through her form and question perhaps how soft she's going to want it, but she's a winner on soft, and I think we'll get a little bit of a drying ground at Kempton today. So hopefully we'll end up with a drying day Friday and end up with ground that she'll handle absolutely fine. But at 5-1, I thought she was a really fair price to improve again. She's got to step forward, but as Dec's already alluded to, the penalty structure means she's getting lumps of weight from most of these in here. I just think it's a really interesting, it's not really a Nicky Henderson style horse, is it? A young young mare chasing, but clearly connections or Nico or whoever have suggested that this is the way to go, and it's paid dividends so far this season.
Yeah, she has been really enterprisingly campaigned. Like you say, it's very un-Nikki Henderson-like because she has just been so bullishly campaigned over fences, and I love that fact. Like I say, the weight concessions you get for younger horses and the mares as well, and she is only a 5-year-old. So I was very wary of her, but not enough to side with her.
And the last 5-year-old to win this race was?
Ooh.
Oh, I don't like quiz questions. Come on, Mr. Smart.
Retired this year. Good old Frodon.
Oh, Frodon. What shout that is. There you go. One of Paul Nicholls' winners of this
Another
race
one of
again.
Paul's,
So yeah, we're bringing it all back around.
But that's enough about us. Who are you with?
Yeah, not with a Nicholls runner.
Okay.
Or with Arkle. I'm wary of Arkle though. But Le Patron for me. Now, I sided with this lad last time out in a Grade 1. So why would I not then keep the faith of him in this Grade 2? Now, admittedly, he was slightly disappointing last time out. In fact, very disappointing. Only 4th and last in Massilia's, but that was just a strange race. It was completely blown apart by the winner, Nickelback, who does not take up this engagement, as you said, Dec. But Le Patron, he couldn't adopt his usual front-running style, and he didn't jump well enough in that either as a result of it. So I'm expecting him to go forward. You said about the pace angle here. I'm hoping Le Patron will be the one to take advantage of that. Go forwards, play catch me if you can. And if the rain has really hit Kempton in the manner that we're expecting, that certainly won't inconvenience him whatsoever. And I made the point last time that I didn't think his Grade 1 success in the Henry VIII was any fluke at all. So I'm glad that they're trying this trip again for him, and hopefully he can get to the front end and put his rivals under pressure. So Le Patron for me, Dec.
Pembroke for me.
And Sam.
Arkle for the girls.
OK, so 3 different selections in our first race. I have a funny feeling this is going to be a theme then for the rest of our previews. Now, before we move on to our next race, if you are enjoying the show, and again, we really hope that you are, do remember to subscribe to the At The Races YouTube channel and also hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. Right, next race of ours at Kempton. This is the Coral Trophy Handicap Chase, a Premier Handicap for 5-year-olds and over 3 miles at 3:37. So, Sam, you've got a really competitive race to take first stab at here, so I'll just hand this one over to you.
Yeah, nice and easy, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
You know, a few people, including myself, are probably looking at it going, oh, there's a few that you might think are missing here. We've not got the deepest of renewals, but actually there's still a competitive nature to it when you're 5-1 the field. I really found it sort of quite hard to side with the favourite, though, with that rain that's arrived at Kempton. I think Phlegmatic would definitely be a bit more interesting had we got soft, good to soft, maybe even good ground at Kempton, which is possible. So I went through the list and I came down on Bow to Greatness. Dec will be pleased to know it's BetVictor brand ambassador Harry Redknapp that co-owns this horse.
It is.
Ben Pauling, we know how good his form's been recently. 30% strike rate, and obviously had a Saturday to remember at Ascot last week. My pick has won over hurdles on heavy ground at Foss Last, so I'd like to think that whatever the ground is will be absolutely fine. Last time out at Cheltenham, over 2 miles 4, I just don't think that's his trip. I do think he wants a flatter track as well. Obviously, the form at Aintree last season, where he finished second off, I think, just a pound higher, suggests that this kind of rating should be his target. Ben in great form as well, and I thought he's probably an each-way play where you'd be getting an additional place on the race. So, yeah, the Bow to Greatness for me was my tentative pick in what looks an open enough renewal.
Very open renewal, but yeah, with a yard in form, it's just a kind of a given that you should be looking at a horse of that nature. So Bow to Greatness then for Sam. Dec, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking that the rain that Sam mentioned has really changed the complexion of this race. For me, it's significant for 2 reasons, because 1, I think there's plenty of horses in here who want much better ground, and 2, there's quite a few doubtful horses stamina-wise in this race, so that rain is going to make it more of a stamina test. But look, I think that's going to suit my lad, which is Blackjack Magic. As we saw when he won the Badger Beers earlier in the season, loves going 3 mile plus, loves soft ground, and he can go right-handed as well. And I really like him for this race. I think he's grossly overpriced given the recent rain, especially if the ground at Kempton doesn't dry out too much. His last 2 runs have come at Ascot and Sandown, but both of those efforts have been on good ground, and I've just got the feeling from him everything's been happening a little bit too quickly. He hasn't been able to travel his sweet, which was kind of put his jumping under pressure. So I think the rain as well is really going to suit him and just slow everything down for him. He did look a little bit lazy last time out. He got a good squeeze from Rex Dingle, I think it was, going away from the stands at Sandown. Now, I don't know if that's because he was in top gear or he's got a bit lazy, but if if it was the latter, they've slapped on some first-time blinkers. Now, if he takes to these, I think he's a massive player given all the rain. And then the final one, which I know Katie Tracey's going to love, 9-year-olds are 6 for 10 in the race, and he's a 9-year-old. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to go on. I really like him. I think he's got a great shout if he takes to the first-time headgear.
I really appreciate that you are jumping on the trend bandwagon. Welcome to the dark side, then, of facts and figures and all the like. So, nice one for that. But it doesn't mean that I'll go side with your horse, though. Because Lord Baddesley, then, for me, for the Chris Gordon yard. Now, the Chris Gordon yard, they've had a quiet time of things by their own lofty standards, but they really are starting to get back firing now and really starting to make hay. Now, Dec, you said about the ground inconveniencing a few of these. I agree. Now, one of those horses could well be Lord Baddesley, but he's a fair price considering that bit of a doubt, because that's one of the biggest doubts I have about him. But he looked right back to his best form last time out, and it actually was an RPRs as well, when he finished second at Newbury. Now, that was behind Inch House. Now, Inch House hasn't exactly franked that form, but he is still a well-touted individual anyway. And Lord Baddesley, despite never really looking like he was going to win, he was just staying on really nicely over the 2-mile 6 trip. So, first go at 3 miles here, but I'm excited to see what he can do over this distance. £3 higher than last time out, but hopefully the yard turning the corner. So, Lord Baddesley for me. Dec?
Going to be some blackjack magic for me.
And Sam?
Bound to greatness.
Right, 2 races so far, and we've had 6 different selections from the 3 of us. So well done, guys. We're nailing this, but it is that kind of a race, admittedly. So again, do let us know your own selections in the comments section below. As we look north now, and we head to Newcastle. This is for the Eider Handicap Chase for 5 rods and over 4 mile 1 at 2:08. So stamina very much to the fore on the heavy ground. Dec, who lasts the longest?
Yeah, this is going to be it's going to be a war of attrition here. Of course, live on Sky Sports Racing. Newcastle, I think at the moment are soft heavy in places. I think so. It's going to be you're going to need to stay and you're going to need to race effectively. I was really torn between 2 horses in this race, Tommy Bow and Fenland Tiger, but I just sided with Tommy Bow because he's a year older. I'm hoping that that extra year that he has in terms of hardiness and maybe physical strength can see him home over this kind of trip. He's had a wonderful season. He's been in great form for the Seamus Mullins yard. This season he's already won the Durham National, he's already won the Southern National, and last time out he ran a cracker off a big weight to be second in the Sussex National. And I went back and I watched the race again last night on attheraces.com. I know it was a little while ago now, but he just looks like a horse who's been on great form with himself, nice and bright. Looks like he's loving his job, travelling sweetly and jumping soundly. Now, he wasn't any match for the winner late in the straight that day, but I think going up in trip is going to suit him because he does look a real strong stayer. Look, it's going to be really tough carrying 11 stone 10 in that ground, but kind of just looking at the trends, I think horses carrying 11 stone plus have done well in this race, although maybe not carrying as much weight. But look, he's in great order, and as well, the Seamus Mullins yard are in good order at the moment as well. So I was stuck between those 2, but I came down on the older horse for Irish rugby fans, Tommy Bow.
Is it?
Yeah.
Explain that, please.
Well, Tommy Bow used to play for Ireland.
Oh, is that okay?
That's it, yeah. Not the horse, but yeah.
Tommy Bow, then it is. Probably a horse that hasn't ever got the credit he deserves, or a yard that doesn't seem to ever get the credit that it really deserves. So strike rate is there for horse and yard as well, then. So Tommy Bow for the rugby fans apparently then for Dec. Sam, you got any other links?
I'm just quite scared Dec's got to judge my Irish pronunciation here of my selection. It's Rathanleur for Rose Dobbin. How was that?
Rathanleur, yeah, give you that, yeah.
All right, we'll go 6 out of 10, I'd say there. But let's hope the horse can do better than my pronunciation, because it's an interesting contender. Finished 5th in this race going back a couple of years, and that came off a £3 higher mark. 2 runs so far in recent times, saw a win and then a slightly disappointing run last time out where there was no real explanation when I went through the notes. So just going to have to forgive him that. He's got a bit of a patchy career for an 11-year-old. He doesn't look like an 11-year-old in terms of his profile. Quite lightly raced, and I suspect that's more due to issues that have cropped up throughout his career. But I love the fact that he's a proven stayer. He's right down towards the foot of the weights, carrying just 10 stone 3. The yard have been going well as well. So I just found I wanted something I could play each way in this race, and that sort of double figure price really tempted me in. I'm fairly confident his jumping won't be an issue. If he's on song, I think he'll put it up to him and will at least be in the finish.
At least be thereabouts then. Now I'm starting with the horse that I think you had at least a nod on then with Major Dundee in here. And now what's up, if that was anything to go by.
Was my shortlist, Kate.
Yes,
it was on the
fact that you
shortlist.
thanked me for tipping him up, I'm very pleased about that because, yeah, it's going to be Major Dundee then for me here, who has been clipped in somewhat from his price at declarations for the Alan King yard, who will no doubt be flying after their recent Saturday successes, and their strike rate has followed suit. And we know that this lad will stay. You can see in picture here that he won the Midlands National last season on soft ground over 4 Mile 2. Now that came off of a £3 lower mark than he's running off of here. But I still think if you watch this with the horse towards his inside there and Tile Tapper, even if he had carried £3 higher this day, I still think he would have won. Now he has improved, or he did improve with each of his starts last season. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case again this time around, because he was never going to be suited to the classic chase last time out. As a hold-up performer around Warwick, he's just a bit of a no-no. So, and he didn't really have a hard race as a result of that either, so I'm more than willing to draw a line through it. He's been on my shortlist for a good few races this year, but I think Newcastle over this kind of trip, that real galloping track over a stamina test, because he's a real behind the bridle merchant. This fella, he saves a lot for himself, is by Scorpion, but to be fair to him, I think he is pretty straightforward in what we've seen. But yeah, just Warwick's never going to be his track, is he? Because you need to travel there, and that's one thing he doesn't really do. Yeah, no, exactly. And to be fair, we haven't mentioned Scorpion for a while. I haven't given him a shout-out. It's never in a positive way that we seem to give him a shout-out. But yeah, Major Dundee then for me. And again, 3 different selections for the 3 of us then in the Eider Chase. But again, do let us know your own selections in the comments section below. As we switch codes now, we head to the all-weather and to Southwell, of course, the new home of the Group 3 Winter Derby. This is for 4-year-olds and over 1 Mile 3 now too. So we've got a few different variables here. One variable that isn't different is Lord North taking in this race, 13-8 market leader. So he is, of course, in defence of his crown. Now, we know that this race was a prep for him last year before he headed off to Meydan to win the Dubai Turf, but he was still an 8-11 favourite for the race despite being beaten the year prior in 2022. So this price is surely fair for him, though, for all that it's a slightly longer layoff than last year for him to overcome as an 8-year-old. But Sam, I don't really have too many doubts about him here, despite the change in variables.
Well, how can we really pick holes in him was kind of my angle. When I saw he was that price, I thought, I tried to make my own prices and thought, well, that seems really fair, that 13-8. I guess he's another year older. At some stage, these horses won't be able to come and do that, what he's achieved. Obviously, he's run to a mark of, 120, I think he's down as. He's miles clear of the rest of them on that basis. I don't think the track change is going to be anything too much of an issue. So for me, he was a very obvious pick, and I kind of was a bit like, is this a trap? What am I missing? Having not picked up the all-weather for a couple of weeks form-wise, I sort of was trying to, I quite like Tyre NC, but I don't think he should be changing the form with him. I kind of just thought, well, Lord North wins, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Declan, what were you thinking about that price? Because is it almost a bit too big that we are suspicious?
Yeah, no, I think that, it's the phrase, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is a good motto to live your life by in general. And it looks like, I suppose, look, a lot with these things, maybe the market, 5 minutes before the race, and that will be really interesting, because we'll have a look at him in the paddock and how he's gone down to the start. One thing I would be a little bit worried about is when he won the race last year at Lingfield, he did have a pacemaker in there called Harrovian. Now, he doesn't have any pacemaker this year, and it looks like a race that could get pretty tactical. I think Claymore will go forward, and Military Order will probably sit second, and maybe Lord North will sit third behind them. I don't think Robert Halbert wants to get too far back in this race. But one thing I would say is, I think the switch to Southwell will suit him, because when he won when he won this race last year at Lingfield, he only really got on top in the last furlong once he'd straightened down off that tight bend. Bit of a longer straight here, going further in trip, I think will suit him. We shouldn't forget he ran in a Breeders' Cup Turf over 12 furlongs once upon a time. So I think 13-8 he's definitely be one I'll be watching closer to the time, and I'd be happy to back him at a little bit shorter if the vibes are correct. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, I'd actually probably be slightly encouraged about that. Like, say, just before the offer fee was clipped in that little bit further as well, because like that price is making me ever so slightly suspicious. But Declan, I just want to ask you about Eden then in here. Now, we've had lots of debate over the pronunciation. It's been a long time since we've seen him, so it was trying to re-jog the memory of exactly how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
What to expect from him? Is he a potential spanner in the works?
Potentially, yeah. We'll go with Eden because, as we all know, there's only one Aidan, and that's Aidan O'Brien, the master of Ballydoyle.
Aidan Coleman.
Yeah, well, there you go.
No, I will not forgive you for that.
Really interesting, this fella. Just look at the pictures here. Look how big this lad is. And he's by a horse called Olden Times, who I think progeny have kind of tended to progress well. He ran a cracker in the Guineas behind. It was a Caribus, a native trail. And I don't think that race set up too well for him at the time, because I think there was a bit of a bias, in my opinion, for the lower draw numbers, and he was drawn middle to high. And then he also kind of raced on his own down the middle of the track. He didn't get any cover. He ran a cracker. But what I did notice about him is he really sharpened up in that Guineas from his earlier run. And I just worry now he's stepping up 3 furlongs in trip. He's such a big horse. He's clearly had plenty of issues. You just wonder, how do those kind of big horses, when they start having problems, do they come back to their best? But absolutely, he could be a little bit of a spanner in the works, is right, yeah. Really fascinating race, actually. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, massively so. 665 days. And Sam, just one more horse to chuck at you. Military Order. Now, he could potentially be the spanner in the works because, of course, we know the form line between the favourite and Tyrrhenian Sea from last year. Military Order, though, he's the one splitting the difference in the market. And the Charlie Appleby yard, I mean, they just seem to be firing on all cylinders at the minute. But this lad ran over this course and distance last time out, only second. So can you see him taking a step forwards?
He could take a step forward, couldn't he? But would I want to be playing at that price for him to have to do something that he hasn't yet done? Probably not. I'd rather be wrong and take the 13-8 about Lord North. Maybe that's just a punter in me, and I'm probably being a bit unambitious about the horse's aspirations. But for me, I don't know. I ended up a bit disappointed with him.
Funny horse, this fellow. Was he sent off 9-2 for a derby? And
yeah, I'm pretty sure I was on him.
Yeah, so was I. And
I think yeah.
And then the wheels came off big time.
Yeah.
But to be fair, the wheels seemed to come off kind of the Godolphin operation kind of during the summer last year. He's a full brother to Adayar. They've gelded him now as well. Maybe the gelding will be the making of him, but I thought he should have won that race last time out.
Yeah.
He travelled there going 2 out, and he looked like he was going to win. And a horse like Enemy dropping from 2 miles to win over 1.3 miles in the slowly run race just sets kind of alarm bells off in my mind. But I need lug left as well. But yeah, I don't know. I think Lord North, if the vibes about him, looks a solid play to me.
Yeah, well, it'll be fascinating to see how that race unfolds. And, of course, you can catch the Winter Derby all live on Sky Sports Racing and Southwell's Action. But it's now time to head over to the Sky Pad to give you our best bets for the weekend, as well as more Cheltenham anti-post angles. Now, we're not far away from the festival, but still enough time to give you more anti-post plays. So, Sam, where are we looking this week?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier in the show, a couple of guys came up to me and we love the show, Sam, but your boosts are always a bit too big a price. You never boost a favourite. You're just trying to stop boosting favourites. I said, OK, lads, I'll have a look through and find a favourite that I really like at the festival. And it's very hard to get away from Sergino in the Triumph Hurdle. I think he's an absolute fantastic... I personally didn't warm to him that quickly, but I certainly turned my opinion around when he put Burdett Road well and truly in his place last time out. He's going to be considered one of the bankers of the week and will be boosting the price. I think he's going to be very popular. I'd say it'd be our most popular boost so far. And he looks like, bar Constitution Hill, Nicky Henderson's best chance of a winner all week outside of the Champion Hurdle favourite. And he's just a cracking horse, isn't he? And so exciting. And I think he'll be great over a fence next year. I really hope they do take that route. Whether they will or not, who knows? But yeah, he'll be my boost this week, Sergino.
I can imagine people right now not even going to pay attention to what Dec and I are going to say. They're going to be straight away looking for that boost now and getting onto that. I mean, I might do myself, Dec, to be honest. That's a good selection Sam started us off with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's getting a bigger price about him is definitely interesting because he looks a proper horse. But while Sam is going to put up one to the head of the market, I am going to the complete opposite end of the Arkle market. I had a look at this race earlier in the week and I just thought it was a good race to have a stab in. Just all the horses to the front of the market. You know, Marine Nationale, now he looks like a horse potentially has issues. Ilete Tomp, I do love him. He's so tough, but he's not the biggest, and I do think jumping comes a little bit hard for him. Found a 50 is a horse who's been really well positioned in tactical races this year and jumps to his right. And I just kept going further and further down the list. Gaelic Warrior mightn't run, and I was like, I like JPR1. I think he's got a chance. But Matata was only half a length behind him last time out. JPR1 is 10-1 and Matata's 25s. That made absolutely no sense to me. Now look, obviously had a bit of a process of elimination there in that race, but that would do this horse a disservice because he's a really likeable, young, progressive sort, and he's taken to chasing really well. Now he does jump to his left quite a bit, but the old course will suit him there. There'll be a rail on his inside the whole way around. And I just thought last time out he was closing on JPR1 at the line, and now the pace did drop in that race kind of midway through, and he just looked like a horse who was crying out for a more even gallop. He's probably going to get that in an Arkle. So at a flyer in a race where loads have question marks, I thought if he ran into third, I'd be delighted, and who knows, maybe a Guna Matata, he might take the whole lot.
And he's going to strike the fear into the hearts of his rivals as well.
Absolutely.
God help anyone that remotely looks to line up on the inside of him.
Yeah.
Don't go there with
Clear.
Matata. Yeah, that's it. So likeable horse, bit of a lunatic, but nice horse to boost then for Deck. Now I'm sort of bridging the middle ground here with mine because again I've gone down the handicap route, and it is with St. Felicien in the Trust the Trader Plate Handicap Chase. This is of course over 2 mile 4. Now this horse is always a horse I've had a lot of time for because I feel like he didn't get the best start in life despite not really doing much wrong in his career, because you look back to his debut start when he won in France. That was in March of 2021 as a 4-year-old, which meant that he lost his novice status for the next year, and then he was a 4/5-year-old taking on elders in open company, and you thought, well, he's just on a massive uphill struggle from the very start of his career. Yet he still did well, but I was glad that he was lightly raced as a result of that, because even at his very best there was only so much that St. Felicien was going to be able to achieve. So I thought that he was well saved, but now that he remains lightly raced, I think that in his second ever handicap start, if he goes for the plate now, because the only other time he's faced a handicap was in the Coral Cup, sent off his favourite in 2022, but that was just a really tricky task for a young horse at that time. Now, of course, he is unexposed over fences, and I'm interested to see what chase mark he gets, because if it falls in line with his hurdle mark, I still think it's very feasible for a horse that is due a day in the sun, and I hope it comes at this Cheltenham Festival. So St. Felicien then for me in the plate. But of course, that is ahead to the Cheltenham Festival as we get ever nearer. But far more importantly and far nearer is this weekend's racing. So best bet time, Deck, you're up.
Yeah, this was a tough weekend, I thought, but we'll have a crack. We've already discussed the nap in the next best, actually. So the nap is going to go at Kempton, and that is going to be Pembroke for me. I think he's got an outstanding chance in that race. He does carry a penalty, but I think he's going up in trip in a race. That might prove a little bit tactical. I think that will suit him. Obviously, for a top team in the Skeltons. And then the next best we've also discussed in Blackjack Magic. All the rain is really going to suit him, and if the blinkers sharpen him up and get him to run a career best, I think he's one hell of a bet, especially each way, and some of those firms that are offering each way extra places, including our own BetVictor. I'm going to have 2 darts in the Coral Trophy though, and I'm also going to put up unanswered prayers. Now, he is a horse I'm a little bit worried about stamina wise, so I'd like the ground to maybe dry out a little bit for him, but at least we're getting a big price. He was running really well at Ascot earlier in the season when the Chris Gordon team were not in good form. Now they are absolutely flying. They clearly weren't healthy. They're much healthier now. If he stays the trip, he's handicapped to go well. Freddie Gordon's going to take £5 off his back, which means he's running off 9 stone 13. That boy's going to think he is running free.
Oh, goodness me, Freddie Gordon, don't envy his diet then for today and tomorrow and the build-up for that. 25-1 shot, and another shout for a Chris Gordon horse and for Deck as the long shot. Sam, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I agree. Sentiments, tricky weekend, but I think we've got a winner or two, hopefully, in my 3. Let's kick off with the nap, where Paul Nicholls does very well at this Kempton meeting, doesn't he? We haven't touched on this race, and I'm quite keen to have a little chat about Cape de Burle, who I thought was very, very impressive on UK debut. Has to give away a bit of weight to the rest of this field, but I'm looking at that as a positive. I'm hoping everyone else looks at it as a negative and we get a slightly bigger price, maybe goes to even money or slightly bigger. But he did the job very well. The form of that race has worked out nicely. The third and the fifth have both run and won since. So yeah, he's my nap, and hopefully I think will go well. I wouldn't get too excited about Triumph Hurdle, though. I think Paul will probably save him and go to Aintree later on in the season. Arkle, we've already touched on her chances. I really, really think she'll put it up to the boys in receipt of tons of weight, and I think that form with Marsh Wren certainly looks a bit better a day on. And then finally, my long shot. I'm finally going to fall for him yet again. Cap de Nord. He will win another big handicap. He might be 11 now. He won this race going back a couple of years and then subsequently ran pretty moderately last year in it. But his recent runs have meant his mark has continued to absolutely plummet. 12 to 1. I've got to give the old boy one more go in a race he's won before.
I'll remind you that you said this the next time you side with him as well. But yeah, we've all been there, haven't we, with Captain Nord at one stage or the other then this season. So they are Sam's best bets. Now, my nap is actually going to be Lord North in the aforementioned Winter Derby. Of course, that comes up at 3:20 at Southwell. Despite this being seemingly a prep run for the Dubai Turf, where he won this race last year as the 8-11 favourite. Now, that success was just 2 starts ago as well. Facing similar rivals here, though, with Military Order, of course, added into the mix. Surface will be fine for him. I'm not expecting the trip to pose an issue, and I'm getting a feasible price as a result. Now, next best is going to be in the Dovecote, the Grade 2 Novices Hurdle over 2 miles at 3 o'clock at Kempton. And this is Secret Squirrel, the blonde bombshell that is a course and distance, or the only course and distance winner in the race. He is really well suited to Kempton. He wasn't beaten far, giving Jericho de Repene enough to think about at Newbury on his penultimate start. Last time out, yes, it was only a Taunton Novices Hurdle, but it was a smart race, and he only went down by a narrow margin behind a good horse in Fireflyer. So a solid horse for all that he looks like a Palomino pony. And my long shot is going to be Major Dundee, that 12 to 1. I'm hoping he'll stick around, that I can claim him as a long shot in the Eider Chase. Hopefully he can get back to the winning ways of his Midlands national success from last season and provide Alan King with another Saturday winner. Right, that's everything from us on this week's show. So a big thank you to Dec and to Sam, as per usual, for all of their hard work. A big thank you to you at home for watching. Best of luck with your bets this weekend. We'll be back at the same time next week to preview the best of the action around the country. So see you then.